Most men only discover this truth when it's already too late. You are the prize, not her. That simple sentence may feel unsettling, but that's exactly why it matters. For years, men have been conditioned to believe they must chase, prove, and perform just to earn a woman's attention. They've been taught that devotion means bending, that romance means giving until there's nothing left. But somewhere along the way, the story flipped. Men who once held quiet strength now walk on eggshells, afraid of being seen as too much or not enough. Here is the truth no one wants to say out loud. She needs you more than you need her. Not because you are superior, not because she is weak, but because real attraction is not built on appearance alone. It is built on stability, presence, and power. And the man who is calm, focused, and in command of himself is far rarer and far more desired than he realizes. This video is not about arrogance or coldness. It's about remembering your worth, reclaiming your role, and understanding why the balance of power only shifts when you forget who you are. By the end, you will see why true respect is never begged for. It is commanded through presence. Chasing looks romantic in movies, but in real life, it destroys respect. Think about it. The story we're sold is that devotion is measured by how much you run after someone. We see men throwing grand gestures, rewriting their lives overnight, offering every ounce of attention just to prove they are worthy. It looks noble on a cinema screen, but in the real world, it communicates something far less attractive: desperation. When you chase, you declare without words that your worth is lower than hers. You signal that her attention, her presence, her validation is the prize you cannot live without. It might win a moment of notice, but it costs you something far more important: respect. Because respect is not born from neediness, it is born from strength. And when a man overinvests too quickly, the mystery evaporates. The aura of self-possession dissolves. Attraction fades because there is no balance anymore. You've made yourself too easy, too available, too transparent. Now contrast that with a different kind of man, the one who chooses. He does not chase, he does not overperform. He notices beauty, yes, but he does not lose himself in it. He is watchful, calm, deliberate. Instead of throwing his crown at the feet of the first woman who smiles at him, he asks a quieter, deeper question: does she belong in the life I am building? This shift from chasing to choosing is subtle but powerful. Chasing is noise. Choosing is silence. Chasing is motion without direction. Choosing is stillness with clarity. And in that stillness lies magnetism. For what is more rare in this world than a man who is content within himself, who is not frantic for approval, who looks at a woman with admiration but never with need? Every woman feels the difference. To be chased is flattering, but fleeting. To be chosen is something else. It speaks to her desire to be seen, evaluated, and respected. When you choose, you place her within the frame of your larger life. You show her that you already have a mission, a direction, a foundation. And she respects you not because you orbit her, but because she realizes she has been invited to join something greater than herself. This is the critical difference between making a woman the mission and inviting her to join your mission. When she becomes the mission, you lose sight of your path. You begin bending, shrinking, rearranging everything to keep her satisfied. And though it may feel like love, what it really reveals is dependence. In time, she feels the burden of being your center, and burdens are heavy things to carry. But when you already have a mission, when your life is filled with purpose, direction, and quiet strength, then her place beside you is not born of your desperation. It is born of her recognition. She sees you moving forward, steady, unshaken, and she chooses to step into that current. In that moment, attraction deepens, because it is no longer built on need, but on respect. Ask yourself, which kind of man do you want to be remembered as? The one who emptied himself to prove his worth, or the one whose worth was evident in how little he needed to prove? Chasing tells the world, I cannot live without you. Choosing whispers, I am whole, and I will decide who walks beside me. And here lies the truth. When you stop chasing, you do not lose women. You lose only those who were never meant to walk with you. What remains are the ones who see your calm center, your unshaken frame, and who desire not to be worshipped, but to be part of a greater story. Stop chasing. Start choosing. Because only when you choose can she truly feel chosen. If choosing over chasing is the first step toward reclaiming your worth, then the second step is learning to tell the difference between what feels good and what is real. Because in the haze of attraction, many men confuse the flicker of attention for the flame of love. Don't confuse sparks for fire. A spark can be thrilling. It lights up the darkness for a moment, makes your heart race, gives you the illusion of warmth. But a spark that is not nurtured dies just as quickly as it appears. Too many men build their hopes on sparks, late-night texts, playful compliments, small gestures of interest, without realizing that sparks cost nothing. Attention, on its own, is cheap. A woman can give it freely without any real investment. Sometimes she offers it because it's convenient, sometimes because it flatters her ego to know someone wants her, and sometimes it's nothing more than habit, a way to keep you orbiting without ever stepping closer herself. You become the background music in her life, always there, but never central. Here's the trap. Because attention feels good, it tricks you. You think, she sees me, she values me, but what she values may not be you. It may only be the way you make her feel when she's bored, lonely, or restless. And if you mistake that attention for love, you risk pouring out your time, energy, and devotion into an empty vessel. Real love looks very different. Love shows up not just in moments of intensity, but in seasons of silence. It is not built on occasional highs, but on steady presence. A woman who loves you doesn't only appear when it's easy, she invests when it's inconvenient. She doesn't just shine when the night is exciting, she stays even when the days are ordinary. Love is consistent, even when attention fades. Think about it. Anyone can be charming at the beginning. Anyone can be responsive when they're intrigued. But who stands with you when the novelty wears off? Who supports you when you're tired, when life is heavy, when you're not entertaining or impressive? That is where the truth of love is revealed, not in the sparks, but in the steady fire that keeps burning after the initial excitement has passed. And this is where your responsibility comes in. Protecting your value means filtering the difference between attention and investment. Do not mistake curiosity for commitment. Do not confuse convenience with care. Ask yourself, is she showing up only when she wants to be entertained, or does she stay when the spotlight shifts away from her? A man who cannot tell the difference ends up trapped in illusions. He thinks he's in a relationship when he's only orbiting someone's moods. He feels betrayed when, in truth, he betrayed himself first by believing in crumbs instead of bread. But a man who learns this distinction frees himself. He no longer chases validation in every message, every laugh, every compliment. He looks for consistency, steadiness, reciprocity. And in doing so, he raises the standard, not just for her, but for himself. So pause for a moment. Look at the connections in your life. Who is truly with you, and who is only nearby when it suits them? Who builds with you, and who only takes from you? The answer might sting, but it is liberating, because once you see clearly, you stop begging for sparks. You start demanding fire. And when you stop confusing attention for love, you discover something rare. Not every hand that waves at you is meant to hold you. Not every smile that lights up your day is meant to stay through the night. True love is tested by time, by consistency, by presence. Attention may flatter your ego, but only love sustains your soul. If attention can so easily disguise itself as love, then the next danger is what happens when you try to hold on to it at any cost. The man who cannot tell the difference between fleeting attention and real devotion often falls into a darker trap. He begins to beg. And that is the moment when he loses more than her. He loses himself. The moment you start begging, you lose more than her. You lose yourself. Begging communicates one message more loudly than any words. I cannot exist without you. It hands over emotional control, placing your dignity in her keeping. She no longer has to earn your respect or your loyalty because you've already decided that her presence is worth more than your self-respect. And once that exchange is made, the balance of the relationship shifts. She becomes the one with the power, not because she is cruel, but because you've surrendered the very foundation of your strength. Think about how desperation looks and feels. At first, you may tell yourself it's love. You justify every compromise, every sacrifice, every plea as proof of devotion. But in truth, desperation doesn't inspire closeness. It suffocates it. A man who begs for time, attention, or affection doesn't appear noble. He appears weak, and weakness is never magnetic. This is the paradox most men fail to see. The more you plead to keep her close, the further she drifts. The harder you try to fix what's slipping, the faster it slips away. Why? Because no one respects a beggar. To beg is to tell the other person, you are the source of my worth. And the moment you place your worth in someone else's hands, you strip yourself of the very quality that once drew her in, your independence, your steadiness, your self-command. Real connection does not come from pleading, it comes from presence. And presence is only possible when you stand on your own 2 feet, when you can say, I want you, but I do not need you to survive. That is what separates strength from weakness, clarity from chaos. So what is the alternative to begging? Standards. A man without standards begs. A man with standards decides. He expresses his truth once, and if it is not honored, he does not collapse, he walks. And it is in walking that he keeps his dignity intact, because dignity is not found in clinging to someone who disregards you. Dignity is found in holding to your own value, even if it means letting go. There is a quiet power in the man who refuses to beg. His silence carries more weight than another man's pleading. His boundaries command more respect than another man's desperate speeches. He doesn't need to fight for scraps of affection because he knows his worth is not up for negotiation. Ask yourself, have you ever stayed in a situation where you were tolerated but not cherished? Have you ever apologized for things you didn't even do just to keep the peace? If so, you already know the hollowness that begging creates. It doesn't bring intimacy, it only deepens emptiness. And yet, here is the liberating truth. You were valuable before she came into your life, and you will still be valuable if she leaves. Your worth is not dependent on her response. It rests on who you are, on the standards you set, and the life you are building. So let go of the illusion that begging can save you. It cannot. What saves you is remembering who you are without her approval. What restores you is walking away with dignity, not clinging in desperation. For only when you stop begging do you reclaim the power you never should have surrendered. If begging strips you of dignity, then losing control of your emotions strips you of trust. Because once a man gives away his composure, he becomes predictable, fragile, and easily swayed. And nothing erodes respect faster than the sense that you can be moved by every gust of emotion. If your emotions control you, she can control you. Emotional immaturity always reveals itself. It shows up in the panic over an unanswered text, in the irritation when she pulls back for a moment, in the arguments that spiral, not because the issue is grave, but because the man cannot hold his center. Every overreaction sends the same message. I am not steady, I am not safe, I cannot lead myself, let alone stand beside you. This instability may not be intentional, but it is felt immediately. Trust weakens when she sees that your moods rise and fall on her smallest gestures. She cannot relax into your presence because she senses that she is carrying the weight of your peace. And a man who depends on someone else to keep him calm will always be at risk of losing both his calm and his respect. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine the man who feels deeply but does not collapse under what he feels. He receives the same unanswered text, the same disagreement, the same test of patience, but instead of spiraling, he pauses. He reflects. He responds with clarity, not panic. That kind of presence is unforgettable because it is rare. Why rare? Because most people are ruled by reaction. They fire back instantly, defend themselves endlessly, or chase validation anxiously. But the man who has mastered his emotions radiates something uncommon: peace in the middle of chaos. He doesn't suppress what he feels, but he doesn't become enslaved to it either. He feels without falling apart. And that balance is magnetic. This calm presence is not coldness. It is discipline. It is the discipline to process before reacting, to choose clarity over noise, to hold your ground even when tested. When she sees that you can stand steady while emotions swirl, she feels something that words cannot describe: safety. And safety in this context is not about physical protection alone. It is about the security of knowing you will not collapse under pressure, that you will not mirror every storm she brings, that you can steady the ship even when the waves rise. Stability equals safety, and safety deepens attraction. Ask yourself, what happens when life gets heavy? Do you crumble under stress, lash out in anger, or retreat in silence? Or do you breathe, center yourself, and face it with calm authority? A woman may enjoy passion, humor, even sparks of chaos, but she ultimately respects and admires the man who remains grounded when life is anything but. Think of it this way: if your emotions dictate your actions, then anyone can dictate your life simply by triggering those emotions. You become easy to move, easy to manipulate, easy to dismiss. But if you control your emotions, no one else can command you. You remain free, steady, and untouchable in your center. That is the foundation of real strength. So remember this: emotions are not the enemy. They are part of being human. But when they own you, they break you. When you own them, they elevate you. The man who keeps his composure is not the man without feeling. He is the man whose feelings no longer rule him. And in that quiet control, he becomes unforgettable. If emotional control creates attraction, then the natural question is this: what happens when that control is tested? Because it will be tested, not necessarily out of cruelty, but out of instinct. Every woman, whether she admits it or not, will challenge you at times, and how you respond to those challenges determines whether respect deepens or disappears. She challenges you not to break you, but to see if you can lead. These tests are not always loud or obvious. Sometimes they come as small disagreements, sometimes as mood swings, sometimes as distance or silence. They are not traps laid to harm you, but signals, questions without words. The question is always the same: can I trust this man's strength? A woman does not test because she wants to destroy you. She tests because she wants to feel safe with you. And safety is not measured only in protection from the outside world. It is measured in your ability to lead yourself when emotions rise, when circumstances shift, when tension fills the air. Her tests are instinctive, not malicious. They are her way of sensing whether your strength is steady or fragile, whether your presence is real or a mask. But here's the danger: when you fail the test, you lose trust. If every disagreement makes you defensive, if every challenge makes you collapse, if every pushback makes you doubt yourself, she begins to feel unsafe. She sees that her emotions move you too easily, that her moods can shape your decisions, that you follow her storms instead of calming them. And once that happens, attraction fades, not because she dislikes you, but because her instinct tells her you cannot hold steady ground. Think about it. Would you trust a captain who panics when the sea grows rough? Would you follow a leader who bends at the first sign of resistance? The answer is clear. And the same truth applies in relationships. A woman cannot admire a man who folds under pressure, because admiration is born from stability. Now consider the opposite. The man who passes the test does not always win the argument. He does not silence her feelings. He does not dismiss her challenges. Instead, he stands calm in the middle of them. He listens without losing himself. He responds without begging for peace. He holds his ground without raising his voice. And in doing so, he communicates something far more powerful than words. I am not easily moved. I know who I am. You can trust me to lead even when things are messy. This response earns something no amount of gifts or flattery can buy: admiration. Admiration is deeper than attraction. It is the recognition that you are rare, that your presence is not fragile, that you are not just exciting in good times, but reliable in hard times. And once admiration is earned, it cannot easily be replaced. Standing calm under challenge makes you irreplaceable. Because while many men can make her laugh, few can make her feel safe. While many men can impress her, few can steady her. And in a world of surface-level gestures, the man who holds his ground quietly, respectfully, and firmly is the man who lingers in her mind long after others fade. So the next time you feel tested, pause. Instead of reacting, see it for what it is, an invitation, not to fight, not to fold, but to lead. And leading begins with leading yourself. At the end of the day, the real shift is simple. You do not need to beg for value that is already yours. You were whole before anyone entered your life, and you will remain whole no matter who stays or leaves. The moment you realize this, the pressure fades and power returns. If today's message opened your eyes, don't let it stop here. This is only one step in a larger journey, one where you learn to carry yourself with presence, speak less but mean more, and live in a way that commands quiet respect. Subscribe to Charism now so you won't miss the videos ahead. Each one will guide you deeper into these truths, giving you practical tools to strengthen your confidence, refine your presence, and step into the kind of life that others naturally admire. Your next breakthrough might be just one video away.